Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the closing general session of NACD's 2020 virtual annual meeting. I hope you enjoyed our program over the last 2 weeks and had the opportunity to learn about new strategies and best practices to meet your needs over the conservation community. Earlier today, we wrapped up the 2021 NCF live auction, and I'm pleased to announce that together we raised just under $65,000 to support conservation, education, and leadership. Way to go, folks. Thank you to everyone who participated in this auction, either as a donor or a bidder. Your generosity is part of what makes the conservation family great. We thank you for that and the support of NCF's leadership and education programs. I'd like to also thank the Prince George's Soil Conservation District in Maryland for sponsoring the auction and making this all possible. I'd now like to turn things over to NACD President Tim Palmer.
Thank you, Michael. As the National Association of Conservation Districts, our members, leadership, and staff are actively involved in strategic discussions with our federal lawmakers and agencies to ensure that locally led conservation receives the support it needs. One of our greatest partners in conservation delivery is USDA. With the change in administration, we are already seeing a number of new appointments and confirmations, and I expect we'll see quite a few in the coming months and weeks and months. One such nomination is our keynote speaker for this afternoon, Robert Bonney, the USDA Chief of Staff for Policy and Senior Advisor Climate in the Office of the Secretary. Robert most recently served as an executive in the residence at the Nicholas Institute for Environmental Policy Solutions at Duke University. Previously, he served as the director of the Farm and Forest Carbon Solutions Initiative at the Bipartisan Policy Center. He worked to develop new initiatives to combat the climate crisis through ag innovation. During the Obama administration, he served as Undersecretary for Natural Resources and Environment and as a senior advisor to Secretary Vilsack for Climate and the Environment. He worked at the Environmental Defense Fund for 14 years. Robert holds a master's degree in forestry and environmental management from Duke University and a bachelor's from Harvard College. Robert is joining us this afternoon to talk a little about this administration's policies and where conservation districts can fit in. Robert, welcome, and thanks for joining us here today.
It's great to be with you. My name is Robert Bonney. I'm the Deputy Chief of Staff at the U.S. Department of Agriculture. I want to start out by thanking you for the invitation, thanking Jeremy for having me, and more importantly, to wish you all a happy 75th anniversary. You know, in difficult times around COVID, it's good to know that out of tragedy can come some useful things, and think about the Dust Bowl in the 1930s and the good that came out of that in first the establishment of the SCS, but then later the National Association of Conservation Districts. So important to remember that sometimes tough times can lead to good things, and NACD is certainly one of those. I'm also reminded that when I was in the Obama administration in 2010, it was the 75th anniversary of NRCS. And I remember then Chief Dave White telling me that if we could get President Obama to mention the 75th anniversary of NRCS in a speech, that he would belly crawl from USDA over to the White House. We got it done, but to be honest, I'm still waiting on Dave White to fulfill his end of the deal. So if you see the chief, let him know he owes us. So I want to talk about a couple things today, just some of the Biden priorities, a little bit on climate change, but more broadly on conservation, the work that you all do, and the partnership that I hope we'll have over the next 4 years. Obviously, COVID response is really important right now. We're all being asked to mask up in federal properties, and know that you all are in, many times in offices with NRCS. It's a small thing we can all do, but it's important. There are other things that USDA is doing in COVID response. We want to be as good a team player as we can. The Forest Service, for example, already has incident management teams out working on vaccine delivery. We're looking at ways that we can use USDA facilities to help speed up vaccinations, use USDA staff. And so USDA is doing its best to contribute to the broader effort. And as we all think about the little things we can do, masking up in offices is one of those things. Let me turn now a little bit to climate change. This is obviously another area where President Biden has placed a lot of emphasis. If you saw Secretary Vilsack's hearing the other day, he talked about this and there was a lot of interest. It's a potential real opportunity for agriculture and forestry around climate change if we do it the right way. If we use incentives, if we use the voluntary incentives that NACD knows so well, there are opportunities to make this work well for agriculture that will help farmers, ranchers, and forest landowners improve their bottom line, take advantage of the interest in the marketplace for climate smart agriculture and forestry. And so there's obviously a lot of interest at USDA in this. We're going to do this in a way that solicits as much input as we can from agriculture and forestry, from conservation groups, from all of you and many more stakeholders. We want to do this in an open, transparent way. We know that climate change isn't always an easy subject in some parts of the country, particularly in rural, but we want to do this in a way that invites people in and that builds something that works for agriculture, that works for forestry, and that gets the job done from a standpoint of climate change. A lot of that, of course, is building on much of the work that you all have done for a long time. We've got great farm bill conservation programs, partnerships that have been built, and we think that provides a great foundation. And then look at new innovative ways that we may be able to de-risk investments in cover crops or soil health or timber stand improvement or other actions that can help the climate. And of course, there'll be a lot of emphasis on climate mitigation, but there's also a lot of important work, much of which you all are already involved in, around resilience. How do we make farms, ranches, forest lands more resilient to extreme weather events, drought, and other things? And so there are places where that will be equally, if not more important than the climate mitigation side. For all these things, I don't need to tell you all conservation is local. We're going to have to work directly with producers, directly with landowners, sometimes across large landscapes to get this done. And the type of partnerships that you all have been involved in for a long, long time are going to be absolutely critical to do this. So we've got an urgent international issue in climate change, an important national issue. But the work when it comes to agriculture and forestry is going to be on the ground. It's going to be local. And that's why I think the conservation districts are going to be such an important partner as we move forward. Climate isn't the only thing. There are lots of opportunities to partner in the conservation that you all do every day around watershed protection, wildlife conservation, working on large landscapes, the importance of productivity in both agriculture and forest lands. And so that work is going to continue to be really important. The soil health work that you all do, critically important. Thinking about innovative approaches, I think back to the Obama administration, some of the work we did around wildlife, the sage grouse initiative, the work in the Southeast on longleaf pine conservation. Excellent work that was done with conservation districts and NRCS in the Restore Council in the Gulf of Mexico. Joint Chiefs projects across the West, where NRCS, Forest Service, conservation districts working on to help address catastrophic wildfire. So lots of work and building on things that you all know well, Farm Bill programs and partnerships for a long, long time. I also want to touch on equity, the important issue that President Biden has raised. We're going to use an equity lens to think about as we build climate programs or implement Farm Bill programs, to do it in a way that we serve all farmers and ranchers and forest owners, small, medium, landowners of color, producers of color. And so that's an important lens. I know it's something that's been on your all's radar screen, that you've already taken steps in your own organization. And when I was at USDA, there was really good work between NRCS and the conservation districts and working with tribes and other folks. And I think there's more work that we can do together there. Thinking about issues of heirs property in the South, how do we work with African-American producers and others? Critically important to provide good technical assistance and opportunities for financial assistance as well. So again, happy anniversary. Thanks for having me today. I really look forward to a partnership with all of you as we move forward.
Thank you, Robert. NACD and its member conservation districts are proud to partner with the USDA through advancing and locally led conservation, even though that's looked a little different over the past year. We stand ready to work with the administration to best champion the voluntary local conservation delivery model. As the outgoing president of NACD, I have the honor now of recognizing our leadership and ushering in the transition to your new and leadership teams. I would like to begin by installing the new NACD officer team. Three officers elected to office at this annual meeting by their board of directors just a few days ago: Kim LaFleur, Ian Cunningham, and Gary Blair. Joining me for oath of offices are President Michael Crowder, First President Kim LaFleur, First Vice President Kim LaFleur, Second Vice President Ian Cunningham, Secretary Treasurer Gary Blair, and CEO Jeremy Peters. Please raise your right hand and repeat after me.
I, Jeremy Peters,
Peters,
promise to uphold the bylaws
of the National Association
of Conservation Districts,
and to faithfully carry out the
duties of office.
Ladies and gentlemen, I present you your 2021 NACD officer team. Thank you to each for your service. Thank you, everyone. NACD's officer team also serves on the NACD Executive Board, along with a representative from each of NACD's regions and a representative from the Conservation Technology Information Center. These individuals served 2-year terms and are eligible to be elected to 2 successive terms. I now like to officially welcome the members of the NACD, the new NACD Executive Board, and thank them in advance for the energy and the time they'll serve in the coming years, providing input on our organization. Recently elected to their offices are, in the Southeast Region, Representative is Franklin Williams. South Central Region Representative Alan Williams. Northern Plains Region Representative Bill Schimschauser. North Central Region Representative Stephen Stillwalt. Congratulations and welcome. Re-elected to their positions on the NACD Executive Board are Northeast Region Representative Linda Bronson, Southwest Region Representative Jim Berlier, and Pacific Region Representative Tom Weary. To take your oath of office, please raise your right hand and repeat after me.
I,
Alan Williams,
promise to uphold the bylaws of
the National Association of Conservation Districts
and faithfully serve as a member
the NACD Executive Board.
Congratulations. I'd like to take the time to acknowledge the retiring members of the Executive Board. The following individuals have volunteered their time and faithfully served over the years and are now retiring from their posts as NACD Executive Board members and officers. Alex Schmidt, North Central Region. Bevan Law, Northern Plains Region, and Brent Van Dyke, NACD past president. Thank you, gentlemen, for your leadership over the years. Your wisdom and guidance have helped steer NACD and shape us into the organization we are today. We had also planned to recognize Bill Thomas South Central Region Executive Board member, as he was supposed to conclude 4 years of service on NACD's Executive Board this afternoon. Unfortunately, a few weeks ago, Bill passed away, and I think it's important that we recognize him not only for his time in a leadership capacity for the national organization, but also for his work to advance locally led conservation. Bill was a giant in Texas, and he championed youth development and education and conservation, both with the Association of Texas Soil and Water Conservation Districts and on the national level, serving as the vice chair of the Ledge Committee a few years back and chairing our communications committee since 2019. Bill was a proud Texas Aggie and worked to unify conservation districts and land-grant universities across the country, forging connections with a winning smile and an affinity for everyone who loved Texas as much as he did. Bill was incredibly kind, thoughtful, and he genuinely cared about the people around him, his land, all land, and the natural resources we all share. He made NACD a better place to be, and he will be sorely missed. Let's take a moment of silence together in his honor. Thank you. The NACD President's Award is a singular recognition of a person that has, through conversation, input, and reflection, helped the president do the best job of leading our organization. Although there have been so many that I've counted on for guidance and support these past years, it was an easy decision to select this year's recipient. You all have the experience of knowing someone that can seemingly fit 36 hours into a 24-hour time frame. It's not hard to describe such a person: student, teacher, conservationist, patriot, friend, and leader. In the span of 8 years, he has gone from a newly elected district official to the next NACD president. One of my earliest memories of those sessions over a beer, where we always enjoy when we all get together in person. The stories got longer and the laughs louder as we compared farming escapades. Many of you will remember Ray McCormick from Indiana. While Michael was earning his degree from Purdue, he started working for Ray. Ray even offered to give Michael a place to stay on the farm in his chemical room. I think at the time it came out that Michael was using a chemical jug, an atrazine jug, for a pillow. No one knows for sure what the cause was, but by the time he graduated, visits to the barber were rare. Regardless of his hair length or color, Michael Crowder has dedicated years to conservation in Washington State and as a voice for local conservation at home and at the national level with NACD. He has never shied from a task or a request. His influence and dedication are evident in the several committees he has chaired. But he thought and turned it into a major point of interaction, the Tribal Outreach and Partnership Resource Policy Group. I just want to say that Michael anchored me, and I am pleased to announce the 2020 President's Award recipient, my friend, your president, Michael Crowder.
I appreciate it. Sorry for getting emotional, Tim. We've come a long way. I didn't for one second even think about this, and I should have, because there was nobody else live besides us. But what I'm going to talk about in a minute was, not very long ago, I got a call from your wife on an afternoon that Tim was in a horrific accident, and he was in bad shape. So I told Gretchen I needed to fly to Iowa to be with my friend, and called Shelly, and she said there was nothing we could do, and he was hanging in there. And wow, I want everybody to see that. I got permission to talk about this from Shelly. Tim is an excellent man. He's well respected. I'm going to go off script. I don't have a script, but I thank you so much for that, Tim. You mean the world to me. This organization means the world to me. I've been speechless twice in my life, and one time was at my wedding when I was given my vows, and the other time was right now. I wish I could be there to give you a hug. You are a good person, and I appreciate it. It's an honor of a lifetime. I very much appreciate it, sir.
So Michael, behind you, if you'll look over your shoulder, the man you are is partly because of the wife that's standing behind you, and she has something from NACD to you.
Thank you, Tim. I very much appreciate it. It means the world to me.
Thank you, Gretchen.
Okay, I'm off script and don't know where we're at. So I'm supposed to be talking about you now. You kind of caught me off guard here. Thank you, Tim. I'm supposed to be talking to him about going out and how important Tim is to me and to this organization. And I had started to talk about the accident that happened. You saw the picture. Tim has had some amazing challenges in the last few years while I've been an officer with him. I don't know if most people know this, but he had cancer. He had a kidney removed, and he came right back and went to work for us. He thought he was a young man and would do jumps on his four-wheeler, and it rolled on his head and quite literally crushed in his skull. He's got plates and pins holding the side of his face in, and he came right back. Matter of fact, we had to tell him he could not come back until he was ready. So if I could get the second picture on for Tim, the dedication that he has, I want you to see this man. Yeah, on the right side of this that's cut off is a drink cart. This man has so much dedication for those supervisors. He would not allow that drink cart to leave the room until it was finished. That is pure dedication to your organization, Tim. And I very much appreciate that dedication. And you didn't even spill your beer in the meantime. So next picture, please. What's coming up? This is what Tim is. This is his cattle and his background. It's his grandson and his family going to meetings. That's what he's all about. And I want everybody to thank him. It's been a tough year. It's been a really tough year with COVID. Tim lost a lot of his presidency. And next time you see him and it's safe, shake his hand and help. Talk to him about what he's done. Talk to him about the organization. Talk to him about what's coming forward. With that, Tim, I want to turn it over to you and sincerely thank you for the award. That caught me 100% off guard, and I very much appreciate it, sir. Thank you for everything.
Well, it's my pleasure, and there couldn't be anyone more deserving. So we're getting close to the end, and I just want to say that it's been an honor to serve as your NACD president, and I want to thank the officer team, Michael and Jeremy, Kim, Ian, Brent. Without you, we wouldn't have had the success. When I did have the accidents, when I was disabled, there was no question about someone stepping in. I had to beg to get back into the rotation. I want to thank the executive board that's made this such an interesting and such a successful, in my eyes, presidency. I think that the e-board, the executive board members, past and present, that I've had the opportunity to work with, have meant so much to this organization, and the committees that they've served on. We've seen revitalization of a committees. We have the processes in place to handle so many things. I want to the staff. If I can't say enough about the staff. The team that Jeremy has put together is absolutely amazing, and the fact that they're working, putting their time in and from home, making sure that the conservation will continue to happen, that conservation district service, so the conservation dollars, conservation programming goes to the districts. Staff had such a huge part in that. I want to thank both for their devotion these last years. There's just no two ways there's just no other ways to say that. They will best, and I wish them success in their endeavor. Thanks to the board of directors. It's changed. I first came on the scene about 12 years ago, and some of you are still here. Some of you have continued to serve with dedication. But the new ones that we have, seek out some of the old guard. Don't spend the next few months trying to figure out what's going on. Find out from somebody that's been there, and if you have any questions, feel free to call me, because I always have opinions people need to hear, and I sure will do that. But I think the last 2 years of NACD has really been a time of consistency. We've capitalized on the leadership of those that got us to this point: Brent, Lee, Earl, Gene, Steve, John, Olin, Bill, Rudy. All of you have made such an impression on me as I've gotten to know you, and because of you, we have continued to strengthen our working relationships with that we have with our conservation partners. I will say there are missed opportunities because of the pandemic. Maybe not so much some of them that wouldn't change NACD, but the opportunities to meet new friends and to greet old ones, and some old ones. You know who you are. I truly believe from my heart that conservation districts are coming into the spotlight again, as an answer for what ails our country environmentally. When it's closed on our in-person meeting, others open will let us broaden. I'm confident that moving forward, NACD and your team will make the most of it. So, final thought, several years ago, I was talking to my friend Donovan Tays. We were in Anaheim, and I was seriously thinking that it was time to make room for someone else. And as we talked, he said, "Tim, leave no regrets." Thank you, Donovan, for that guidance. I wouldn't be here today, I don't think, if you wouldn't have said those 3 words to me. Thank you all. for this so very special time in my life. Thank you, and thank you, thank you.
Tim, it's been an honor to work with you. I appreciate everything you've done. So it's truly been an honor. I want to say that there's 1,850 plus registrations for this meeting. Every state and every territory in the United States, except the far Pacific Islands, has been on our meeting this week. I've had the honor of a lifetime in taking over as president of this great organization that has advocated for the preservation, the conservation, and the rehabilitation of our natural resources for 75 years. 75 years of promoting soil health, 75 years of promoting water quality, partnerships, relationships, representing and advocating for landowners and managers from across the nation. And as this meeting motto says, diamonds out of the dust of the Great Dust Bowl. This movement was born from the ideas and energy of Hugh Hammond Bennett and other founding leaders regarding the importance of locally led conservation and the need to improve conditions of the soil for future generations. That momentum has led to nearly 3,000 conservation districts and 17,000 district supervisors who volunteer their time and efforts for the cause. I can't tell you the pride I have in representing these supervisors and staff at all levels, from the local districts to the state associations and our own great volunteers and staff at NACD. I'm humbled by your trust in myself and our team to accomplish your goals. While on my journeys at NACD, I have participated in meetings and field tours with district officials in at least 24 states. I've met thousands of conservation leaders and producers, and I'm always amazed at the excitement from the supervisors, staff members, and cooperating producers when we talk about the projects on their land. It amazes me that I've visited a coffee plantation in the rainforest of Puerto Rico, toured the Mescalero Apache Indian Reservation in New Mexico, as well as cattle grazing pastures in the saltwater flats of the Fox River in Ketchikan Bay, Alaska. These areas are all drastically different, but if you listen closely to the producers, they still have the same desires and needs of the conservation programs. They want to protect soil, have clean water, increase food production, and conserve their natural resources. No matter where you are, we share those goals. There are a few important issues we are facing and need to address as an organization in the near term. Climate change, food security or insecurity, equality, and social justice. I will address these issues throughout the speech and lay out my vision of the future at the end. First, I want to say a lot of thank yous. Thank you to the NACD Board of Directors, Executive Board, and Officer team for their service as an all-volunteer force. The Executive Board meets online once a month to conduct the business of the organization, and the officers are on a call every Friday morning to discuss the week's happenings and future business. I've served now for 4 years and want to acknowledge those folks. The first 2 years was Lee McDaniel from Maryland, last 4 years with Brent Van Dyke from New Mexico, Tim Palmer from Iowa, Kim LaFleur from Massachusetts, Jeremy Peters from Virginia. The last 2 years we've had Ian Cunningham from Minnesota and newly Gary Blair from Mississippi. Beyond the issues of the week, the officers used to talk about meetings we were going to attend, talking points, and travel arrangements. But for the last year, we get Zoom links and logins. The good thing about that is I've literally been on 2 meetings at opposite ends of the country at the same time. I want to tell you that rarely, if ever, does an officer miss a weekly call or is not prepared. We are certainly good at double tasking, as Tim and Ian are usually feeding cattle. Kim is always scooping horse poop and cleaning barns, and depending on the time of year and daylight, I'm checking and changing irrigation water on the ranch. I would also be remiss if I did not acknowledge and thank the spouses and family members of our volunteers, as what we all do takes us away from our jobs and family on a regular basis. Especially Gretchen, for keeping everything going at home and on the ranch, not just when I'm gone, but generally all the time. I want to thank the members of each of the districts for making the decision to invest with your NACD association by paying dues that fund the actions that we all do. These unrestricted dollars are vital for our advocacy, and we are able to use those funds for influence of legislation and policy, grant programs, staff assistance, meetings and events, and membership services. We can do so much more together than we can individually. We have membership services. Look at the NACD website, nacdnet.org. It has so much information. We do advocacy work year-round, the legislative committee and other committees, monitor policy and outreach. The legislative committee meets monthly. We have government affairs updates, partner reports, DC updates. We have letters of support for legislation and nominations. Our spring fly-in usually has 150 plus district representatives come into Capitol Hill and meet with their congressional representatives in support of locally led conservation. NACD supplies one-pagers on legislative priorities and hot button issues. This grassroots outreach is so important to what we do. These meetings are important to develop relationship with members and staffers. You can't just show up once a year and say, "Hi, we're here to talk to you and please fund us." You have to know them. They have to know you. They have to trust you and your organization, and you have to answer questions for them. It's important to have those relationships for our success, but it's not just a one-way street. Provide them with high quality, truthful information of how things are going on the ground, examples of successful projects, and be their go-to for conservation questions. Other on advocacy is Farm Bill listening sessions. An example of this is I worked with my local Congressman Dan Newhouse and others to hold 2 Farm Bill listening sessions here on my ranch that included agency heads, state reps, and national congressional members. It was held here in my conference room. The first one was headlined by Undersecretary Bill Northey. The second one was headlined by then Associate Chief Kevin Norton. We had state FSA executive directors, NRCS state conservationist, the director of Washington Department of Ag, Washington Senate Ag Committee Chair, and other state reps. Get involved with your leaders and let them know who you are and what we do, and not just before a vote. According to former NRCS Chief Dave White, in his panel session on Monday's discussion, he said Farm Bill will start within the next year. It's kind of amazing that 2 weeks ago we had our final rule from the previous Farm Bill, but we have to start working on the next one. Organizations will start preparing their priorities for the next Farm Bill, and we have to do that as well. Another membership service is stewardship and education. This is part of the education of the broader population, especially our youth education. It is a tool of how we reach urban and rural and non-involved populations that are still taxpayers. We have the Envirothon, poster contest. NACD communications have ramped up to reach tens of thousands of people weekly with stewardship messages and outreach. One of our most important membership services, grants. Our largest certainly is our technical assistant grants. Through the help of our friends at the NRCS, in the last 3 years, over $34 million have been awarded to increase district capacity where needed across the nation. Grants awarded to all 50 states and 3 territories. This includes $1.6 million to tribal conservation districts and tribal associations. These grants went to the highest priority projects selected by the state conservationists in each state. We do not approve the grants without leadership sign-off. There are several hundred examples now, but these grants have helped conservation districts use these as stepping stones to improve capacity. We also have urban grants. This program advances conservation technical assistance in developing areas. Since 2016, over 5 million grants have been delivered to 102 conservation districts in 34 states. Right now, we have an RFP out for the next round, due February 15th. These grants restore and energize conservation districts that don't necessarily have their district full of corn or soybeans, but have a lot of people and still in need of conservation work. This helps us highlight the interface between urban and rural. We have the Friends of NACD mini grants, which are $2,500 grants provided to districts for outreach. An example is youth conservation education and ag plastic recycling. NACD is always looking for opportunities to help local districts through grants on leadership and conservation planning. Strong capacity at a local level helps a strong capacity at a national level. Next is partnerships. Partnerships are at the core of what NACD does and what we have accomplished over the first 75 years. The Natural Resources Conservation Service, formerly the Soil Conservation Service, has been vital for the work and help in funding of millions of projects that have been installed on the land. I remember walking in the local SCS office in Indiana in the early 1990s and not realizing until much later that that desk was the NRCS, that desk was FSA, and that one was districts. I didn't know that till much later. That's how strong of partners we are. After working as a high-level partner with the NRCS now for several years, I've had the privilege of working with some of the finest people I know as NRCS chief or acting chiefs. That includes Bruce Knight, Dave White, Jason Weller, Leonard Jordan, Matt Lohr, Kevin Norton, and now Terry Cosby. At the very first NACD meeting I attended as a supervisor for the Benton Conservation District in 2012 in Las Vegas, I watched Chief Dave White speak. I was not in leadership at any level at that point, but I seriously wanted to go grab a shovel and go do something. What a powerful, captivating speaker for conservation. I've had the pleasure of working extensively with Leonard Jordan, Matt Lohr, and Kevin Norton over the last couple of years, and just yesterday spoke with Terry Cosby about our future partnerships with the NRCS. However, it's not just the chiefs that are instrumental to our partnerships, but it's also the local soil conservationist and range conservationist and district conservationist and area conservationist, programming and contracting folks, the state conservationists and regional conservationists, all the way up to those at national headquarters. It's a team from top to bottom. With increasing direct hire authority, positions are being filled faster this year and right now than in previous few years, and we hope that continues through the next administration. Our traditional partners, known as the Conservation Delivery System of the NRCS, the National Conservation District Employees Association, the National Association of State Conservation Agencies, RC&D councils. What a great bunch of folks. What great work we do. We also have NACD affiliates of the President's Association and the Auxiliary, our sister organization, National Conservation Foundation. But we also have a list of other partners, which are way too many to list here, but some examples are the federal agencies, U.S. Forest Service, EPA, Department of Defense, Department of Interior with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and BLM. We have conservation organizations like Ducks Unlimited and National Wild Turkey Federation, commodity and livestock groups of corn, soybeans, wheat, and pork, agribusiness like Corteva and Syngenta. Last year, Kim LaFleur and I attended Syngenta's Ag Leadership Program and met leaders like Mary Kay Thatcher and others. What a great experience that is and how it helped me in leadership through this industry. We have conservation and environmental groups like the Nature Conservancy and Environmental Defense Fund. We have sustainability partners like Field to Market, Ecosystems Market Services, Soil Health Institute, Western Governors, and more. Again, these are only a small sample of our partners. This list is growing every year. I do want to point out, I feel that we do not have to agree 100% of the time with our partners. We work together where we have shared goals and objectives. Much of the time, we have the same objectives of clean water, cleaner air, and other resources. Another example of partners is our tribal partners. One of my more rewarding accomplishments at NACD was the founding chair of the Tribal Outreach and Partnership RPG. Having grown up in Indiana, I had no tribal experience. And as chair of this RPG, I was able to travel the country, talk to Indian folks in Indian country in the lower 48 in Alaska. I have toured reservations, attended powwows, and seen their dances and learned the culture. I've had the pleasure of working with Delane Atsedy with Inca, who we have the Indian Nations Conservation Alliance, who we have an MOU with, and they've participated greatly over this meeting and through our RPG. I've met Janie Hipp, the Executive Director of the Native American Agricultural Fund, Butch Blazer, the former Undersecretary of Ag and former President of Mescalero Apaches, Zach Ducheneau with the Indian Nations Conservation Alliance, and more. With the land base that tribes have, we need to work with these groups and keep our motto, every acre, every American, every day. We've awarded TA grants to Inca and the Alaska Village Initiative and other individual tribal districts. Our tribal RPG has greatly expanded the partnership and representation from Indian country, and we intend to keep working and foster those relationships. We also have longtime financial sponsors of Case IH, John Deere, AgriDrain, Scott's Miracle Grow, Bob Warner, Prince George's Soil Conservation District. These are just a few examples of a long list, and there are many others that support NACD in local districts. I want to mention the NCPP, the National Conservation Planning Partnership. They're trying to re-energize and reinvigorate the whole hiring, programs, and certification process of conservation planning. Leadership. One of the important missions of NACD is to be leaders and develop the next generation. If you watch the opening video on Monday, you saw the President's Association and their members talk about the importance of leadership, and they're still there. These folks are leader and still involved and still training new generations. There's approximately 700 individuals in the President's Association that have served as president of their state associations. We have NGLI, the Next Generation Leadership Institute. It is our attempt to help promote leadership building and filling the pipeline of supervisors, the proverbial planting the seed for tomorrow. We need new and young enthusiastic supervisors. We have Conservation Careers Workshop, Leadership Development. I want to take one page and just take a second out of Ray Ledgerwood's playbook, my friend Ray Ledgerwood. Grab a pen. He did that this morning. Grab a pen and write down the name of a person that you think who can and would be willing to be part of leadership. A person needs a little more training and a little more coaching, and shows a sign of leadership. Take that person and talk to them. Tell them that you see the possibility in them. Help them. If they're not a district supervisor, get them to a meeting. If they're a supervisor, get them to national meetings and get us their name. If you're NRCS, call that person. Ask them how their day is going and if you can help. We are all busy. Trust me, I get that. But those little things make a difference. Mentors. Be a mentor. I want you to know that so many people are watching you, so many more than what you think. Everyone on here today is a leader in whatever organization you belong to, and people need to know that you're there for them. Show them what you know, show them how you know it, and give them suggestions. I have hundreds of people that I could list as mentors, one being my mom. She was always there for me, going to baseball games and anything else. I had a guy by the name of Mike Breeden that I was young. And when my dad was overseas working in Guam or Saudi Arabia for the Army, or wherever in the world he was at, Mike would frequently pick me up to go fishing or trap shooting or dove hunting, or literally just going for a drive. He passed much too young, and his boys are considerably younger than I am, but they are my brothers, and they will be for the help that they gave me. Everybody has people like that in their life. One of mine is Ray McCormick. I met him at a Quail Limited banquet early my freshman year of college and literally went to work for him the next day, and I would not be here without him. He's an absolute true conservationist, and he lives and breathes it. It was great 20 years later that I would catch back up with him on the board of NACD. Many of you on here know him. And I will note that he got a little more fiery than when I knew him in the 1990s. But he's a good man, and he was good to me in college when I had no money, no place to stay. And Tim was joking that I lived in his chemical shed. That is an absolute true story. I lived in the mudroom of his house and in the back of his office, and after 5 years, I eventually got my own bedroom. He single-handedly got me. He got me to where I'm in today, and I appreciate that. I only spent a few years with him, but he's affected my life. Other mentors are my shooting coach, Chuck Reichert. Chuck took me from just a country boy that was good with a shotgun in 1 year. I was an Olympic skeet champion, collegiate national champion, and it was all to him. I would have never done that, and I brought this today in honor of Chuck. This was my Olympic skeet gold medal. My team and I ended up winning, I believe, 5 of those. And he was an exceptional human being. And I didn't realize at the time how much time away from that mentoring a person would take. And I want everybody here to do that. I want to acknowledge Lieutenant General Jerry Bartlett. He was a great influence on my life. But I also want to talk about the Benton Conservation District and the mentors that I have here locally. We live in a dry area. We have Jack Clark, Danny Downs, Mike Clancy, and also Nicole Berg, which she happens to be the Vice President of the National Association of Wheat Growers. Amazing group of folks. We have a great district. We have 3 full-time staff and 3 part-time staff, and we work on all kinds of issues: aquatic invasive weeds, conservation tillage, endangered species, and very important to us is water quantity. I want to talk about WACD and my mentor supervisors of Larry Davis, Wade Troutman, Dean Longray, Chris Herron, Larry Cochran, Lynn and Tana Ingdahl, district managers of Mike Tobin, Craig Nielsen, Vicki Carter, our old executive director of Dave Vogel, and our new rock star, Tom Salzer, our state conservation commission member, former member of executive director Mark Clark, and Ray Ledgerwood, who worked for the commission, and now Carol Smith. Great folks. Every state has folks like that they should look up to and work with. Our Washington NRCS state conservation is Roy Lean Comes at Night. I can't say any more about our partnership with Roy Lean. Every state has that. Every state has a local working group, and I'm a member of that here, and I've talked to Roy Lean hundreds of times about issues that affect our local working group, affect the priorities of the state. I want to mention Corey Bonson real quick. He's my district conservationist. I work with him not only on my ranch, but for the local working group. We have Alan McBee's in the world. Alan was my area conservationist who is now the state conservation in Alaska. You never know where you're going to see these folks. I had Leonard Jordan as a state conservationist, and now he retired as an acting chief of the NRCS. These folks are more than just friends. They are our family. I have names like Lee Nelson, Harold Croce, Kevin Gwynn, and others that I've worked with for 20 years. I still admire them for their work and advice. And then I have NACD mentors, Earl Garber, past president from Louisiana, and really the first person from NACD that I've met. Earl came to Washington twice through a WACD annual meeting and was instrumental in helping starting the tribal RPG. Every single time I called Earl, he answered the phone and called me back. And being now in that position, I know how hard that is to do. I want to thank Lee McDaniel. I love his smiling face and his inside jokes. I want to acknowledge Bill Thomas that passed. He was a great and generous man. I want to thank Tim Palmer, Kim LaFleur. Kim has been a pleasure to work with for the last 4 years. She did a great job in leading the DEI committee through a lot of work in a short period of time this year. She is the first female first vice president of NACD and has a chance next year to become president-elect and then the first female president, and she deserves it. I also want to acknowledge Wade Troutman. I mentioned earlier about him being a mentor as a supervisor for WACD, but he's way more than that. He was a leader in the Pacific region, a 2-term executive board member, and I wouldn't be here today without him. And a testament to how people feel about Wade is the fact that he had a terrible wildfire rage through his area last summer, and it took almost everything he had, house, farm, and all. Kim LaFleur and I started a GoFundMe page fairly late that evening, and we had hoped to get a few $1,000s to get him through a short period to get clothes, food, and other essentials. When Kim hit the button to make the page live, it passed our 2,000 goal before I went to bed, so we raised the goal. It passed that goal the next morning, so we raised it again, and it passed it again the next day. It was incredible to see the amount of people donating to the fund, and it's because of how many people respect him and his work. It eventually raised over $64,000. That shows you what type of conservation family we have. And now I want to talk about my vision for the future. I believe NACD is in a strong place. With everything going on in the world, we are fiscally in better shape than 5 years ago. We have more staff to be able to service districts, more grants to help TA and leadership and outreach, but we can do more. I want to increase our partnerships. As I mentioned earlier, we do not have to agree 100% of the time with our partners, but we do have to have shared goals and objectives. I want to increase our influence on policy and legislation, and we will continue to develop relationships on Capitol Hill and throughout the nation. As I touched on earlier, there is important issues facing us that we need to address, one being climate change. Climate change legislation and executive action will happen. The marketplace for carbon and other ecosystem-based credits will happen. If it's public or private or combination of both is yet to be determined. NACD has passed a series of resolutions in part to address these climate change issues. Number 2, food security or insecurity. Food security is national security. That means producing the safest, most affordable, most sustainably grown food in the world. It also means ensuring that those in need have food to eat. That is one of the many great things about our Farm Bill. It supports our producers, supports conservation programs, and supports those in need. The COVID-19 pandemic showed holes in the supply chain. Food was being produced, but it was not always able to get through the supply chain. Local and regional food hubs are important. Competitive marketplace is important. NACD is not directly related with commodities and commodity prices, but if producers are not making money, they are not doing conservation work on the land. And finally, equality and social justice. We in the ag community have been painted with a broad brush of being older and rural, but we are much more than that. Ag has to be proactive in outreach to underrepresented demographics. We have to get producers of color and tribal members involved in conservation work and acknowledge there is a need there. It is important that we have diversity in our ranks, and it makes us much stronger. So actions I want to take as president, I'm going to bring back the DEI task force and intend them to complete the work of recommendations made to the board of directors. I want to bring back a Farm Bill task force to prepare us for the next Farm Bill, and a policy book task force to clean up our policies and make bylaws and make suggestions. But I also intend to create new task force, one of them being the climate change task force, and the name is yet to be decided, but I've asked Tim Palmer to chair this work and he has accepted. I will task this group with giving suggestions regarding legislation, policies, policy gaps, and recommendations for climate and Farm Bill conservation programs. This issue will be a big arena for conservation work in the future. I plan to call an aquifer and groundwater task force tasked to be with collecting and distributing information regarding aquifer drawdown and recharge and make policy suggestions. Also a Pacific Island Special Committee. I strive to bring back participation and representing from the Pacific Islands. They were the only associations not represented at this meeting. There was once a Pacific Basin Association CD, and I have talked to Travis Thompson, the NRCS Director of Pacific Islands area. We talked about partnering, bringing back assistance there. NACD Pacific Region Rep Ariel Rivers and Travis have already been working on these discussions, and I want to help where possible. I have asked Roland Catigua from Guam to chair this special committee work, and he has accepted. And I want them to bring back a report of recommendations of how we can help. I also will call an informal NACD Presidential Advisory Group. My intentions are for the past NACD presidents and other invited advisors to meet twice a year as on an informal call to utilize their knowledge and experience gained in the past. If you watched Rudy Rice earlier in this meeting, we have to harness that knowledge. I will call for an informal NACD social hour with the president. If you were on this morning with the coffee, it was great. We had no agenda. We were just talking and people asking questions, and I want to keep that going forward. It is as close to anything I've seen as meeting in the hall. I like a good bourbon, so I will probably have a good bourbon. I don't care if you have a Coke or if you're eating dinner or folding clothes, you can be on the call. I don't know the times of day. We'll probably switch between morning and evening and maybe middle of the day. So stay tuned. We'll reach out. We are thinking big and expecting big, so don't hesitate to reach out to your NACD reps with your thoughts. I am easy to reach. Give us your feedback. My email, as well as all of our staff and officers, can be found on our website. We have social media accounts that you can like and share. I personally have a Facebook account. You're welcome to contact me there. I don't check it very often, but I promise to do so. I do want to acknowledge the Robert Bonney Challenge. He talked about USDA Chief of Staff Robert Bonney, or excuse me, he talked about Chief Dave White saying he would crawl from the USDA building to the White House if President Obama would acknowledge the NRCS 75th. Well, here's a challenge. If someone on here can get a video of President Biden acknowledging NACD's 75th anniversary and the importance of locally led conservation, I will crawl from USDA to the gates of the White House as a fundraiser for conservation leadership and education. That is a promise. Finally, I am proud of our past, but more excited for the future of this organization. I'm excited for the possibilities of greater leadership training, increased capacity, increased influence on conservation programs and legislation and policy, continued grant funding and strengthening old partnerships and building new ones. I thank you all for being online here today and taking steps to be safe. Get your shot and let's get back to normal soon. You have my assurance that we will be here working for you. Districts and our partners are strong locally, but much stronger when we stand together. I'm humbled by your support you have shown me. I personally ask you to support me and our whole team as we work through these challenges we've faced the last year. I'm so disappointed not seeing everyone in New Orleans this year, but we will all be together soon. I sincerely thank you. The next time we will be meeting is in Chicago, and well, hopefully, and let's play a video about Chicago. We hope to see you there as we continue our celebration. Next year, our annual meeting will be held in Orlando, and we have a video for our next annual meeting.
like seas, why nots, and like nowhere else's. Imagine chasing bigger thrills, exploring customs and cultures, creating memories. Imagine getting closer, losing track of time, and feeling no need to find it again. Imagine a place where dreaming and doing become one. Imagine all that you can experience only here. Imagine Orlando.
Again, I can't thank all of you enough for participating in this meeting. Thank you, Tim, thank you everything, Tim. We will see you next February in Orlando. If there's any questions, any comments, you can email events@nacdnet.org. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for your support, and we will see you all soon. If you could show Tim, we had an award for Tim. But thank you all. We very much appreciate it.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much. Thank you.